Welcome. Tonight's program will dive deep into fringe knowledge of lost, hidden, and suppressed truths about the nature of our reality. The decoding process can be uncomfortable and at times frightening. However, you are not alone on this journey of understanding. Welcome to the Shadow Bank Podcast.
I saw it.
How's it going?
Chilling like Bob Dylan, bro.
The captions for the beginning of our episodes, or like, you know, when you go to edit it and you see like the audio captioning or whatever, it almost every episode starts with SOD space IT. It has no idea what you're saying.
Really?
Sod it. Yes.
Sod it.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, the AI is not good enough yet, man.
It doesn't know the slangs.
I'm not scared. Although they're talking about, I saw Elon talking about he's going to drop Grok 3, and apparently Grok 3 is going to be like the best thing since sliced bread.
I wouldn't doubt it, dude. He's got federal monies now.
This is true. Why is this still on? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, guy. I don't know if that was showing up for the viewers. I goofed. Yeah, we're back, bro.
After a good time, man. A little something different.
Yeah, we did have a good time.
A little something different.
Tell the people what you did, man. You did a lot of the work on it. You talk about it.
Guys, check out the video. It's on the YouTube. It's on the Facebook page. Is that Zone X?
Yeah, I shared the link on X. I got to upload like the full video still, but yeah.
All right, link's on X. Maybe we'll have it pinned or sometime. But
you do that. I'll actually put the X right there. There's the X. Follow on X, shadow_pod. You'll find the link.
And that's us going to Kennedy Space Center, Belly of the Beast, and just having a good old time. And that's just what we did. We just had a good old time.
Yeah, honestly, it was a really good time. Aside from the video and like whatever, just, you know, trying to be funny and like having a good time. It was actually pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. So thanks for bringing me over there because it was pretty dope. I'd never been there, bro. I live right here. I've lived in this area for my whole life.
Close.
Shockingly close, and I've never been. I mean, I have been like, you know, beyond the gates for work things, but never for leisure. So it was dope.
Yeah, it's tight. That's my second time going. I went like maybe 2 months ago, and it was cool. It's definitely touristy, but it was cool. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Florida's good at the touristy vibes, right? Like, and I think when you grow up in Central Florida in particular, and you go to the theme parks a lot, there's like certain things that you just pick up on a little easier than I think plebs who might never do theme parks. If that makes sense, right? One of them being like decorative, like small detail shit, decorative items. You know, when you're walking through like Universal Studios, for instance, right? You know that those giant boulders aren't really giant boulders, right? You can just kind of tell by looking at them. Whereas some person who may have come here from, I don't know, even like another country or something, like they just, you know, their mind is completely blown because it's like the biggest event in their life. Like they may not even think about that kind of thing. So when we're walking around Kennedy Space Center, my tourist goggles were like, you know, my tourist X-ray goggles, I should say. I was seeing right through the tourism.
Yeah.
Happening, you know?
Yeah. And some of the, so first things when we came in, it was like, you know, there's the huge rockets that are there, and they're from all different time periods and cool stuff. And, you know, there's a little bit of, you know, an explanation as to what they were. And, you know, they look cool, but they're all, here's where you can't really tell what you're looking at. Are you looking at a recreation, or are you looking at the actual rocket? And I'm not doing the tour, listening to some dork lie to me for, an hour and 45 minutes. I want to
Yeah.
know, are these recreations or not? Sorry, there's like so much dust on my camera, it's bothering me. And you know, I they look like all of them are cleaned, obviously, and it's cool. I get it. They're your front door displays, so they're all repainted, they're retouched up. Some of the pieces, they had some rust on them. Some of them are not fully restored. There was an engine, a gigantic like F-35 engine that still rusty and that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, this one may have been used, it was dinged up, maybe it got used. So you don't. Some of them are so intricate too. Like with the rockets, you're just looking at the exterior. You can't see the underbelly. You can't see all the inner workings, so you don't know. But that big boy outside, laying out sideways. Talk about that big boy.
Okay, well, I mean, look,
Massive.
the scale. We talked about this a little bit, like as we were walking out, right? It's like, we can go deep about like what is NASA lying about, what is the budget going to, like blah blah blah, all these questions that neither one of us are smart enough to know the answers to, right? But one thing I can say for sure is that human beings are building some crazy shit, right? Like now, like these rockets that you're talking about, like the one out in the front at the very beginning of that video, it's like laying down there. That thing is huge, bro. I don't know what the size is exactly. It's got to be like a 10-story building, more, right? And you see the size of the like thrusters, right? The rockets, I guess. Just imagining the force coming, like, bro, there is some serious engineering going on, right? But I think where the question is for me is like, is that like that's kind of the psyop, right? It's like, yo, look, we built this super massive, crazy object that flies. And it's like, holy shit. And it blows the human mind. And then it's easy for them to slip in, like, we're taking it to space. And
Well,
you're like, oh, yeah.
you would imagine, yeah. It looks like it could go to space. That's what you're saying. It's crazy looking. It looks like it's going to space. So you go, you don't question anything looking at it. You go, yeah, those are giant fire-breathing thrusters on the back. Fuel, the thing's icing up when it's getting ready to launch because the fuel's like negative 390 degrees, and then the engines get up to 6,000 degrees. It's all the numbers are like preposterous, and so you can't question it. So is it actually going to space? Is it just blowing up at the top of some atmosphere? But it looks
Yeah, I
like
don't
it
know,
goes
but
to space.
one thing that I noticed right away, we noticed this right when we got there, before we even walked into the buildings or anything, right? We're looking at those first rockets out there. And like you said, I don't know for sure if those were just like replicas, like decorative replicas that they put out there, or if those are like the actual rockets. Now, that being said, there were a couple of points during the day where like somebody who worked there would say something like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like the thing that we're looking at right now is the thing, not a replica. So leads me to think that, all of it is.
Yeah.
Right. But those rockets, man, like a lot of the stuff that works on them, I said this a lot in the videos, it's all mechanically driven. It's like, it doesn't make sense to me, and I'm not an engineer, but it doesn't make sense to me that certain things would work in this pressurized, non-pressurized environment, right? This vacuum of space where you have seals that aren't sealed because there's movement and mechanical joints and things like that, right? Like I pointed to them all day, like, look, this is made of rubber. Look, this is made of plastic, right? Like, look, this seal isn't gonna seal shit if there's a differentiation of pressures happening
And
here.
heat. So you're
And
talking about
heat.
things like lighting on fire as it's coming in 6,000 degrees at the engine. Like all of that metal is going to bend and expand and all that. Now, we're just asking questions. We don't know what's underneath, what kind of, ablative layers are under there that like expand with the metal or are heat proof. So it's, it's hot, but it's not melting and bending metal hot. I don't know, but makes you wonder.
Does make you wonder. It's a pretty sick place though. They
It's
got
pretty
some
sick.
pretty sick stuff.
The tech there that they have is pretty neat. There was like some see-through touchscreen interactive monitors there that was pretty sick.
Yeah, like the hollow monitors or whatever, man. Like it
Yeah.
was out of Star Wars, bro. It was a
You could like
yeah,
it's cool. And see right through
yeah,
it. So you could see
and
like what
see
you're looking
through
at.
it.
It's pretty sick.
Why don't we have that? I want that.
Yeah. Yeah. Double-sided
You
TV in
know,
the middle of my room, and I just have surrounding couches. Tight.
and I'll tell you what, man. You know what else they showcased a lot in that place was their ability to do like production and theatrics.
Bro.
Right. You talk about we walked into a room to watch this little space shuttle spiel they had, and would you count like 16 projectors in this one little room that were pointing at all different
We weren't even in the right
angles?
spot. If you were in the center, you wouldn't have seen all those gaps. So it would
Right,
have looked
right.
like a dome, but it was like a segmented dome. Yeah, I think 16 projectors. It was, yeah, dude. The production level is top notch. Now,
So it's like,
the presentations weren't that good. We're like,
well,
you got
that's
like,
because
hi,
everybody hates their jobs, bro.
I'm Buzz Aldrin, or Neil Armstrong, and I work with,
Right.
it's kind of corny, but
But
yeah,
you know, it's like to me they were showing off like the incredible engineering of just big stuff, right? Like the assembly building is just a massive building. The building itself is real. We've
yeah,
seen it. I've been there, okay? You know, it's a massive, crazy, awesome building.
yeah,
But they're also showcasing their awesome ability to do this production, to have like these, lasers and projectors and like just the way that they present and walk you through kind of all the stuff when you're sitting in the control room, right? And like the guys comes on the screen and he's like, "Look, man, you're looking at all the consoles that they were like sitting behind when they launched the rockets." And I'm thinking it's a mock-up, right? I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. It's a mock-up. It looks just like a mock-up." And the guy's like, "No, this is the real stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, snap, dog."
yeah, like
And then
people
they
actually
had
sat there like 60 years ago and did this.
right, so it hit like an emotional response immediately. You're like,
Yeah, you
"Oh
go like,
shit."
oh dang, dude, those guys are here, dude, and like
Right.
the intensity increase because you're like, wow, like that energy kind of still lives in that room. It's pretty sick.
Mhm.
It's pretty
Yeah.
sick.
I'm thinking of the room like filled with cigar smoke and cigarette
Oh
smoke
yeah,
and just
dude.
like,
Oh yeah, dude. Unfiltered, just
but then
everybody
they
huffing Winston's.
as the video's playing, like all the consoles light up and like the console that they're playing the audio back from like the launches and stuff, like they're lighting up the console of the guy who was saying the thing, right? And like then the what do you call them, the bleachers that we're sitting on start to vibrate
When the rocket's going off,
when the
bro,
rocket's going
you hear like
off. So
the
like
windows rattling. That's pretty sick.
yeah, and it's just like, again, they're showing off not just the massive stuff they can build, but they're showing off like the level of production, how they can like fool you with theater.
Yeah, man. I mean, it is intense. It's good stuff. Like and that's just the tourist stuff. This is not trying to convince the public of anything. This is not. I mean, this is $60 million a day. I figured you probably do a little bit better than that, but it was still pretty like comfier chairs. But it was pretty tight. And then the other thing was like the seeing the actual space shuttle opened up with the arm out connecting to the Hubble telescope, and you're like looking up it's like, whoa, dude, we made that.
Yeah,
That's freaking sick, dude.
it's just a glider.
Yeah, which is
But
crazy.
this is the thing that's okay. So like I saw somebody ask this question of flat earther one time. He was like, isn't it odd that it is a glider, that it's not a plane? And the other guy in the video is like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, it'd be one thing if they built like a spaceship of some kind, like if the doors could open and you can look inside and see like, hey, here's all the the rocketry and the fuel and the blah 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 blah, right? When the space shuttle opens up, it's just a big hollow opening, and on the back are those giant rocket engines. You see those giant rocket engines on the back. We walked right behind them.
Yeah.
But if you think about like what's in front of those, there's nothing really there, right? So it's like what is fueling those? And then he's like, it's just a glider, and they tell you it's just a glider, right? But it's like that's the karmic cycle truth telling thing right there. It's like, no, it's just a glider. It's not a spaceship.
Yeah.
The shuttle is not a shuttle. It's just a fucking glider. And you see it on the top of the plane, and they're like, look, this is how they fly it around. It detaches, and then it glides in, fucking lands. And that's what we put on CNN. And we're like, look, dude, it just landed from the space station.
Yeah, it lands like a plane. The wheels come out the bottom. It's like, yeah, it's definitely odd. It feels. Looking at the tech, you go, this looks like a Star Wars movie. Like the one of the presentations, they're like showing actual like behind the scenes video of launch day, and you can like see them over. Okay, there's a couple things here we got to talk about. It's that final video in the VAB when they're talking about Neil landing on the moon, and they're like, oh, he's overshooting it because he's getting all those errors on his computer and can't tell where to land, so he's overshooting his thing. And they're looking, and it's like this ball thing, and it's got like the doot, 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 and it's like, bro, that is Star Wars triangulation, bro. Like literally, it's either like we were so advanced at the time that was like mind-blowing technology that George Lucas couldn't think of anything crazier than that to put into the Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, lightsabers, whatever, I can think of that. But heads-up displays and like tracking vehicles, like that was it. Is like, I can't think of anything cooler than that. Or, you know, we were just, the production guys were like, yeah, this is just kind of what the space thing is. You do this.
See, that's what it seems like. It seems like
it could go.
It seems like just this thing. Have you seen? There's an old video. I'm gonna try to find it next time you start talking for a minute. But there's an old video, and it's like the first spacewalk that was ever videoed.
Mm.
And like if you watch that video, you're like, this is absolutely 100,000% fake. But it's like an official spacewalk video. So it's like,
Really?
well, what is that?
Mm.
I'll find it. I'll
Try to
share
find
it for everybody.
Because the other thing
But-
that was really
Yeah, go ahead.
weird
Let me look for it now.
was when it says he's coming in at like 3,800 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what? His approach on the whatever moon thing is an insane speed. Just the ground beneath him, just, and he's just coming right in, just hitting the air brakes, slowing down. And like the computer's trying to do calculations with like, this computer was absolute trash back in the day. So I don't know, some of the numbers, and this is what scientists do, man. This is what these scientists do, bro. They just hit you with numbers, and you're like, is that real?
Yeah, bro.
28 billion million miles away? Like, is that real?
Well, the numbers, I feel like that's part of like the whole the scarcity thing. You know, when I talk about like they want us to just feel like there's we're just in a world of scarcity, and they do that. I think those massive numbers to kind of do, you know,
Well,
to put that in your mind.
it works both ways. If you think like this space shuttle or whatever, the rockets are going like 28,000 miles an hour or 42,000 miles an hour, something ridiculous. And it still takes 8 minutes to get around, or whatever, 16 minutes to get around. No, it was an hour, right? Didn't he make it around the world in an hour? 52 something minutes?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Something like that. But it's still like, you're going tens of thousands of miles an hour, and it still takes you an hour to get around the Earth. That's a lot of miles.
I found this.
So this is From when?
It's like the fucking 50s, bro.
It looks like 50s.
Look at this.
All right, he's climbing out. I mean, that is just absolute trash quality.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, bro, it just looks super fake to me. And it looks like what you're talking about, where like back then, back in the 50s, the production level it just was what it was, man. You could only do so much. George Lucas could only create. This is why. Let's just use Star Wars. Do you know why he started with A New Hope?
Because the technology was supposed to be kind of like bad for the rebels. It couldn't be Clone Wars. That was like super space age with huge carrier thing. Yeah.
He knew that the production level of technology for making movies at the time was not up to his standards to make
The
the first three movies, right?
Yeah.
He wanted those to be, I mean, you're talking about the Clone Wars. Like, how would you do the Clone Wars, you know, in the 70s? Like, it would be terrible.
Yeah.
It would be terrible, right?
Yeah.
So he knew that. So he started with the fourth film, right?
Yeah.
But what we just saw, I think, is like in the 50s when they started seeding the public with, hey, look, we're going to space. Like, the production level just was what it was. And that's what we got. And they're like, this is official. And you look at it now and you're like, wait a minute, bro, that does not line up. That doesn't track with what we see now on these videos of us going into space.
Some of it does and some of it doesn't. Like for that one that you just showed, right, where it's showing the astronaut like up close. That looks like your standard 35 millimeter lens. It's like kind of tight. You can't, it's like not a good shot for what's in the background. It makes the background look like a backdrop. And that's what like your 35, 50 mil lenses do. That's what it looks like. Now, I don't know what they're using, even a 26 or 24 or 20. Like that's kind of what those look like. Now, contrast that with today when everything's shot on wide angle or super wide angle. So you get all these like hard curves and everything looks like a ball. So a little bit different, you know? And like there's just some things that they're just going to look janky because of what they have. But that's almost like reassuring.
It's almost like when Elon Musk said, "Damn, this keyboard sucks, dude. I don't know why this thing never wants to fucking work for me." Elon Musk was like, "You know that the car on the rocket is real because it looks so fake." You ever seen that?
I mean, are the aliens in Star Wars real because they look so fake?
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
Is
this is
Master Yoda real because he looks so fake?
Well, let's find this. Is this thing still floating around in the sky? Is the Tesla, the space Tesla, still floating around?
If that thing still has battery, bro, I want that battery. I need that battery in my camera.
Oh, what the hell is this? Man, the internet's whack. You
Yeah.
never find the thing that you're looking for right away. It's always got to be...
Google knows what you're trying to do, bro.
Yeah.
Google knows. They're saying, no, you're not trying to, no, you're not exposing me. Sorry, I'm not making fun of Sundar Pichai. That's not what I was doing.
Like this, bro. Like, hold on, here it is. I got you.
Getting canceled for my Indian accents.
There you go. There you go.
That's it, just floating out in the vacuum of space.
Apparently. That was it. That's what we got. It was like, here you go. We sent a car into space. Oh, wait, here's another angle. Like, dude, look at the lighting and everything too, bro. I don't know, man. Like, hold on. Let's just go back to that. Right here.
So you got sun on one side. Wow.
Who is in the reflection? Who is in the reflection?
What's moving up there? You saw that?
Bro.
You saw that? Go back. What's moving up there?
I don't know, bro.
What was that?
Seems fake.
Seems weird. The things that I like pick up on with that is like, how is that being exposed? Like the camera exposure. Like, how did they have that? Is it preset? How does everything that they have work so good? Like, right, your exposure in space, it's got to be blown out to wazoo. Like, the Earth is either going to be ultra bright, they got a white suit on, and that's either going to be blown way out. You got the sun reflections on one side, that's going to be blown way out. You got to like pick one to expose for. So either everything's got to be super dark so you can see the brightness of Earth or whatever, or you got to like just blow the Earth out completely so you can see the astronaut. And it's like, how is it exposed so well?
How do we not have a live feed of the Earth 24 hours a day?
I think there actually is. I think the Chinese.
No, there's not. There's a live feed from the International Space Station, but it's not constant. It's on a loop, right? It's just like the same video played over and over again. Number one. Number two, the International Space Station is inside the Earth's atmosphere. Okay. And for anybody who thinks that sounds crazy, you can actually look this up on NASA's website. And the moon is technically inside the Earth's atmosphere. It's inside the exosphere. The exosphere goes beyond the moon, right? So what is space? First of all, I need a clear definition from somebody. Like when we say we send shit into space, no satellite is in space. They're all within, I forget which, the troposphere or whichever fucking layer of the atmosphere it is. It's just really high altitude, right?
Yeah, they're like under the exosphere, I believe.
Right, whatever that one is. So
whatever that one is.
But I don't know. I lost my train of thought before that. I went down.
No, but like that very things are the Earth. Okay, so according to the globe model, the Earth is so huge compared to us and anything we send into space that we're so incredibly close to the Earth. Like that dude from Vsauce, he was talking about like how far, like why can't we see all of Earth from the space station? And he said like if this is Earth, the space station is that far away from it. So you cannot see at any moment like the whole entire Earth because it's basically not even off the planet if you're like zoomed out. And then satellites are also around that.
There you go. AI overlords just backed me up. Technically, according to recent studies, it's like this is fucking new information. The moon is considered to be inside Earth's atmosphere. The geocorona extends far beyond the moon's orbit. It's part of the exosphere. Blah blah blah.
That's what the next disease is going to be called, the geocorona. I got geocorona 2025.
It's like they're pushing the goalpost, right? It's like the space is fake, flat Earth type peoples have asked enough questions where they're like, oh, well, technically, the Earth's atmosphere, it extends out beyond the moon, so technically you're right. We know we never really actually send anybody to space. We just send them really high up in the sky.
Yeah, it's like, what is deep space? Is there not deep space? Is there shallow space? Is there medium space? I'm in mid space. Like what is that? At what point are you technically in space? It's past the moon. If we only have probes out there, then how far out do they have to go before they get into space? The numbers, they're hard to get your mind around. Hard to get your mind around.
We got to get a numbers guy on here. We need somebody who's like good with numerology and gematria to like come break that down because that stuff's fascinating, dude. When people start talking, they're like, bro, look at the 11s here and then the 21s and then, the 72s here. And then look, oh, this word, if you do the math on blah, 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 equals 13. And like, dude, that stuff is where you get to the real juice, I think.
Yeah, I have not gotten a chance to, and I mentioned it in the video, but my plan is this week to do some research into it. All of the Apollo missions have like badges with them, right? Mm-hmm. So 1 is 1, and then you like 10 is X, and then they all have like Apollo, which I'm not 100% familiar with the mythos around Apollo. And then they all have like 3 horses or the Delta chevron things or just different symbology in them. All of them have, I think, eagles in them, and then yeah, there's a lot of symbology there, and I'm not sure. Yeah, there they are.
Yeah, these are.
So yeah, 13 has the horses. 14 is a weird looking one. 15's the red, white, and blue chevrons.
This is like looks like a snake.
It's got some serpent
mouth.
thing happening there. The
You know,
infinity over what is that top one?
I've seen pictures where people have like superimposed a snake with this little swoopty doop here being the tongue sticking out, right?
Yeah.
So you've got like
that's NASA's logo.
symbology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's NASA's actual logo. I think that
Right.
little
Yeah. NASA's
swishy
actual
thing.
logo, for sure.
But yeah, like see, Apollo's face is in the moon in that middle, like that big one in the middle, and then you got the 3 stars in the A, but that A is not technically an A. It could be, it could be something else. It's very odd. It's weird iconography, and I'm just like, I wonder what. I don't know. What's the 3 horses?
Right. What's
the star with the 3 things coming through the circle? It's like,
what's up with these stars being like, some of them have this weird hook on them and stuff? Like, and what is this?
This extra twinkle one. Exactly. I bet you there's something to it, man.
Yeah. There's gotta be.
I bet you there's something to it. There's like, there's only, there's 5 twinkly stars and 7 of these other stars, and this means blah, 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 and this is this constellation, and this is how many planets are this, and it's got to be something. I mean, I don't think they would make that stuff not on purpose.
Code 19, where it's at, ask David Ewing Jr. Is that somebody we should get on the show? Is that guest material? Is that somebody that'll blow our minds?
We could try it. We could reach out and say, hey, buddy, need your insight. Yeah.
Let me look that up. David Ewing Jr.
The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was, you were kind of hinting at it before, but like all the technology that got developed to do this. I go back and forth. I'll be very open with my stance on this. I want us to have gone to the moon. I want to believe it, but questions. The distance is hard to get over. 250,000 miles. You could fit like every single planet in between the distance, and microscopic little who's just whistling through deep space. Not deep space, actually, just the Earth's atmosphere. The distance of all of the planets, it's just, that's tough to get your head around. The speeds, it's really crazy to get your head around that, like, and then also like we're going that fast and then still using the orbit and the gravitational like swing to like rocket ourselves or throw ourselves out, and then somehow catching moons and coming back has almost no gravitational pull. Maybe I'm completely stupid. It does actually have a significant gravitational pull. It's like a third of the Earth or a sixth of the Earth or something like that. But
I think it's like a sixth or a ninth, something like that.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff. But then on the other end, it's the technology, the ablative layers that we made, the shuttle, the Mylar is pretty nuts. People are like, oh, it's tinfoil. I say, no, it's Mylar. You can go and buy it. They make sleeping bags out of it now and stuff. Like, it's all got developed, or a lot of it got developed specifically for space missions. All those little tiles, foam nano tiles that they made. Like, it's really sick stuff. Solar sails and all that crap. Like,
yeah, I mean, but with the budget that they're getting, it makes sense that they're inventing awesome stuff, right?
Yeah.
I guess the question, and I understand, like they'll say, oh, we invented this Mylar because of a space mission. Like, we needed to invent this for this. And it's like, did you though? Or do you guys just have $65 million a day and like the top engineers
Yeah.
in the world just pumping out inventions, making, millions of more dollars, billions of more dollars. It's just like,
Yeah. And that's the other thing that like I go back and forth on, especially when I listen to other people's theories about not going to the moon. You have like two opposing ideas. And it's like sometimes multiple things can be true at the same time. Like I think I mentioned when we were at the place, like we brought over Nazis, Operation Paperclip. Oh no, no!
yeah, you're
My
choppy.
connection's bad. I'm about to blow
You're
the top
choppy.
off this thing. That's what it is.
You got the dial up right now.
Give me just a second. Hold on. I will save it. Am I back?
I think so. I mean, it
Is
looks
it
the
better?
same. I don't know. You have to keep talking for me to know.
All right. So like you get the Nazis that came over, and there's tons of conspiracy theories about the Nazis. They were experimenting with stuff and like trans-dimensional or multi-dimensional. Like they were doing all this kind of crazy cool stuff, hidden technology, alien technology, all sorts of kind of crazy things. We bring them over to do the moon mission, and all of a sudden they're dumb, and Kubrick actually did it. It's like, were they geniuses and could travel to other dimensions, or were they dummies and we brought them over and they made like the worst moon landing hoax ever and like can't get the flag right on the, or didn't account for stars in the background? It's like the people that say the moon landing was fake are pointing out the like most obvious dumbest things that anybody would have picked up on back in the day, especially if Kubrick was, as meticulous as he was. But then also are like the Nazis knew ancient alien secrets and could like travel through different dimensions. Like those two things can't be true at the same time.
Sure, they can, because you can have. Um, so think about it this way, right? If the Nazis were developing super advanced technologies, how they got the information for that, like you said, some people think they were in contact with aliens. Some people think it was through the Thule Society, and they were like conjuring information like interdimensionally or spiritually. So there's like different theories on how they were getting the information, right? Like they were scouring the world, going to like Tibet and Egypt, digging up who knows what scrolls, reading what ancient knowledge was lost and hidden, right? Like they were doing that too. That's where you get like the Indiana Jones stuff. Remember, Indiana Jones was fighting the Nazis the whole time out there in Egypt. So it's like you could have this massive um, gaining of information and building this super advanced technology like UFOs. The Nazi Bell, right, is a device that the Nazis were working on, and apparently some people think it was a time machine or like a UFO. It was something. It was one of these things that had hieroglyphs on it. Like it was crazy. Okay, so once we win the war, right, and we take those scientists, and um, the Soviet Union takes the rest of the scientists, right, there was probably an agreement made, I think, between us and the Soviet Union, like behind closed doors. It was like, look, we all now have the UAPs, the UFOs, the time traveling stuff, like the super wild tech. But we can't let the public know we have this because then we lose all control, right? So we must maintain control. So
I see where
then
you're
they
going.
start pumping out, right, for the next 30, 40, actually up until now, for this whole time since the end of World War II, they've been pumping out space propaganda. So they're like, they could have went to the moon, but what they sent us, the Skype call that they did with the president, right, at the time from the moon, that was nothing more than a Kubrick Skype call to the president, right? Like they were just calling from a studio somewhere, that they were faking this the moon landing that we all saw, while they were also building facilities on whatever the moon is. Right now, I would argue that somebody probably built the moon. We talked about this in the car. Who built the moon? Right? Did an advanced species put the moon in perfect orbit to terraform this one? And like, it just is what it is. I don't know, but they could have definitely been using the UFOs and the crazy teleportation technologies and the cloning technologies, right? All of this stuff that you see in like Star Wars and these films could have been happening, could be happening, and they're just telling us, man, if we could just get back to the moon. We got Elon now with these nice new rockets, right? Don't worry, we're going to spend these billions wisely now because we got reusables. And he's going to get us back to the moon, and then we'll eventually get to Mars. Don't worry, it's not going to, your grandkids might see it, but you won't. But just know that you know, you're helping build this while they're out there with fleets, with Star Command, just like combing through the galaxy, right?
Or yeah, it could be that it's definitely, if the two things could be true at the same time, then that would be it. So like the whole space mission was like, maybe one was real. We tried, we sent some stuff up. We had a lot of stuff blow up. There's lots of video of our stuff blowing up. Maybe we did one, and
But
it was
that
like,
then you have to wonder, like, why is this stuff blowing up if we have like this anti-gravity technology, if we have like this stuff that I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, all the information about like the Nazi Bell and stuff, that could all be propaganda and fake information, right? Like, we don't know that the Nazis were building this UFO. We don't know that for sure.
yeah,
But
it could be like dual propaganda where like it makes them look like a bigger enemy, but then also the coolest shit ever. Because if you said Americans are finding out all this cool stuff in the military, I'm joining, dude. I want to see the cool stuff.
But then you
Sign
have to
me up.
wonder, like, what are the UAPs and the UFOs that are happening now, right? Like, I would argue that the TR-3B and like the newer versions of the TR-3B, for anybody who doesn't know, is a triangular spacecraft, right? Like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all these companies, they have patents for anti-gravity machines and spacecraft, and they're using them. That's what the UAPs are. The Pentagon has already come out and said, yep, this is happening. They're out there. UFOs are real. Okay, for anybody who missed it. So that technology had to evolve from previous technology. So I would argue that they were building this stuff. So all the rockets that we see blowing up on these videos of them trying to get us to the moon with these conventional rockets was just a show. All of it was just a show. It
Yeah,
was a
could have
money
been.
laundering scheme and a
Yeah.
show while they were already in, call whatever you want to call, space, while they were already doing things, right? Maybe it is a flat earth. Maybe they're just like extra terra, right? They were going beyond the ice wall, doing whatever they're doing, telling us we're trying to get into space, right? I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think that all of that billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and this phone has more technology in it than the rockets that took them there, and we haven't gone back
The Well, we did go back a few times, but we haven't like
since
that's
then
it though. Yeah, it's like since the
with
80s.
that technology, with a calculator's worth of
with
technology.
with better technology, we haven't gone back, which is nuts. But like you
Right.
sat in the models, like the cockpit models, and it's like no wonder why. Just such little computing power. Everything was analog switches. The whole thing. There wasn't a single. I probably not one single automatic function in. Not one. Everything was just analog on and off switches. It was crazy. Like, how do you keep track of all of that?
That's what I'm saying too, right? And like you see it in films where like in the Apollo 13 movie where like the shit starts hitting the fan, the alarm's going off, and this guy pulls out a binder and he starts flipping through the binder. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, with all the analog switches, you have on and off. So it's
Yeah.
1 and 0. You basically are sitting inside of a giant like binary code machine. And your job is to turn the right ones and the right zeros in a certain order in order to make the computer do the thing, right? So it's like you're going to tell me that they did all that, and you know it just doesn't make
At
sense, bro.
thousands of miles an hour approach landing. It's so, like I said, some of it's very hard to believe. It's the video of him coming in, and it's like, oh, you have no concept, unlike the shot, like the down shot of him approaching. There's no scale. You can't tell how fast he's actually going. If the craters are small, he's not going that fast. If they're like, state size or Texas size, then he's zooming. You can't tell. But they say he was going, I think he said 38,000 miles an hour. 38. It was one of
3,800
them.
miles an
3,800.
hour.
Okay, my brain is 3,800 miles an
Still.
hour. You're going Mach 6. And you got and the warnings are going off, the ding ding ding, and he's sitting there. I'm just gonna take it manual. Like, I mean, that is some action hero stuff if there ever was, dude.
You ever played Kerbal Space Program?
No. Oh, you were telling me
like
this,
a-
where like you can actually like simulate the landing.
It's like a space simulation game. You have to build the rockets, you have to put the components, make sure it's
Yeah.
aerodynamic, no drag, the whole thing. That's the hard part, you think. And then you launch the rocket and you realize, like, oh shit, I gotta fly this thing, and there's the gravity, like you're talking about, slingshot. It's a great game, dude. But I'll tell you right now, even in the game, with no fear of dying, unlimited resources, and I don't know, hundreds of hours I've put into that game, just landing on the moon in and of itself is near impossible for me. Okay. And I like to think I'm a pretty good video game pilot. Okay. I can make things happen. Can't land on the damn moon to save my life, let alone a spot on the moon
Yeah, the right spot.
and then get back. Right. It's impossible, bro.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lot
my
to get your
metric.
mind around. It's a lot.
That's
And
my
then
metric.
looking at the moon rover, we looked at it, and the tires are like this hollow mesh material, right? How do you know that that's going to work on the moon? You've never been there. You're building a rover and landing gears and all this stuff for a surface and an environment you haven't the foggiest. But it worked. It worked, I guess. It's
Well,
just
but like the rocks they have in those containers, and they're like, this is a meteorite from the moon.
looks so
They look so fake. Going back to what we said at the beginning, like when you grow up in a tourist area, you know, you can spot a plaster casted stone that they use all over the theme parks.
$4,500, dude.
$4,500 for a piece of fake rock that they probably airbrushed. They probably, you know what? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They probably not even airbrushed. The metal or the material that they used to cast that space rock was probably the color that they wanted it to be, right? They're probably smart enough to do that at least. Like they didn't
There
powder
could
coat
be-
it. They just,
Yeah, they could be treated, tarnishing and stuff can happen, and then
There
you
you
just got
go.
this big ugly piece of rock. So they could have wax coated it or something, put some kind of like polymer over the top. Again, listen, I want it to be real. There's probably explanations for some of the things that we don't understand. I'm not going to go out and be like 400,000 people that worked on the missions, all liars, all genius, came up with really cool stuff, but it also didn't go anywhere. There's some funky
I
stuff.
don't think that's the
just
case
like,
either. I think then it's because that's always like the thing you hear when you have somebody question anything. Any of the narratives you question, the more knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? You say, you know, the thing in Las Vegas didn't happen the way that they said. You say 9/11 didn't happen the way. The first thing that you get is like, oh, you don't think the people died? Oh, my uncle worked on that, right? Or I worked on that program. I was an engineer working on the Apollo programs. It's like, what are you trying to say, that I'm a fucking shill? And it's like, no. I'm just saying that the whole program is just super compartmentalized, and like, yeah, sure, you worked on the spark plug, whatever, right? The flux capacitor, but you don't have the qualifications to understand how that flux capacitor interacts with the fucking supercooler liquid fuel monitoring system. Okay, you just don't. Unfortunately, it's not in your wheelhouse, brother. So everything is compartmentalized. You don't know what the next guy's really doing. And at the end of the day, you guys are all going to be huddled in that same room that we sat in around those monitors, right? And you're just going to watch these dudes fucking read numbers off screens and talk over a radio. And you're going to be like, oh, he's stepping his first steps on the moon. And it's like, where'd you hear that? On the fucking radio? Because that's the only way that you got that information. And I could radio that shit in from anywhere.
yeah, I would want to see like an uncut, but I think they got rid of that, didn't they?
Yeah, everything's just mysteriously missing. The telemetry data is gone.
Well, it's not
Right.
I don't think the telemetry data is gone. They had it in one of those notebooks.
No. The original moon
Oh, the
landing
original, yeah.
telemetry data was over recorded over or something from last I understood. they accidentally recorded a fucking movie over it.
That was over the
Okay.
original footage they recorded over. So now all we have is a recording from a newscast of a projection onto a wall of the moon landing. Like the actual like Super 8, whatever he had, 16, whatever, that recording has been taped over.
Interesting.
Brilliant. 60 million a day. Made no copies. Geniuses, dude.
There you go.
Geniuses. Yeah. I mean, that's where you go, okay, all right, now I'm back to maybe this was not real. The other thing I was postulating is that, again, going back to just assuming that we did have at least one successful mission. We did land on the moon. Just assuming that part of that is real. Getting the film that cannot be exposed to light, cannot be exposed to all sorts of different things, that was insulated properly to survive the trip out and the trip back and not be damaged. Not likely that that is the case. Now, here's, if we follow that train of thought down, that it's possible that the footage was damaged, this puts the space program in a bind. If they say we went with cameras and all the footage was damaged, no one's going to believe we actually went. Make it look like it was fake. So then, what would you have to do? You take the footage. You'd have to recreate it and say, this is what it was, so that they can put something out there because the originals got destroyed. Interesting also theories are like, both things could be true. Like, yes, Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick, whatever his name was, did make fake footage. The guy that went on Rogan was showing like them blocking out part of the moon, part of the Earth to make it look like space, and then shooting from way back in the capsule thing to make it look like the Earth was small and they were really far away, but really they were just in a really high altitude plane or something. Like, perhaps that was because the originals got destroyed. Being someone that did like filming for events and stuff, I've done it myself. Your shots are all jank, audio's all messed up, you didn't expose properly, you got to go back and do reshoots to go, okay, now I have a complete product because some of my footage was just absolute trash, or key spots, something's not focused. So you got to go back and reshoot it like it happened the first time, when it's really a reshoot, or you're not even in the same location anymore. It happens. So I'm just saying that's another possibility.
But who are they lying for? Because the thing is, right, like all the countries are in on it together, I think, right? This is why there's no wars in the International Space Station. This is why there's no wars in Antarctica, right? Everything else is on the table.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll share rockets with Russia all day long to send astronauts and cosmonauts up to the space station, right? We'll land our astronauts in Russia all the time. And everybody just gets a hall pass. Here you go. Go ahead, you're fine. You know,
Yeah.
even though we're like on the brink of World War III all the time, right? So it's like, I think that the nation states all know this. Well, not all of them, right? Because again, everything's compartmentalized. So I don't even think that like, you know, certain people at high levels of the government know this shit. It's just like select few, but they all know together in these different countries. All the intelligence people, like higher ups, they know this shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we just got to play this game.
There is like there's a threshold though of like, when you get to conspiracy theories where like there's some stuff that you just, there's no proving it without you going there. So either you're just going to choose to not believe it or choose to believe it. Like,
yeah, there's some, I mean, like Moonland or like,
you can take pictures. Apparently you can like, again, this just sounds absolutely bonkers retarded. Like, you can, there are reflectors apparently that these giant reflector plates that we put on the moon, that you can program a laser beam. You can put on your exact latitude, longitude, and all that stuff. You can feed it into this thing, and it will whoosh, and bounce it off of a reflector off the moon. Wouldn't happen if we didn't put reflector plates there, apparently. Also, I think China sent did an orbit of the moon, and you could see our lander and flag on there. But the immediate thing is, oh, that's fake. And it's like, what level of proof could we get to go, oh yeah, we did land on there? And it's like, I don't know, it's different for everybody.
You have to just like, it's not necessarily, you wouldn't even have to prove that we are going to the moon or anything like that. I mean, I would just say like, I would be somewhat satisfied with like a 24-hour live stream shot of the Earth from far enough away in space where you can see the whole Earth. Not like this up close International Space Station, could just be a balloon. Who the fuck knows? No, give me a wide angle, far enough away from the Earth, live stream 24 hours a day. Put it on Starlink, put some nuclear reactors on it so it doesn't stop, so I can watch all the time. Then people can start to analyze weather patterns that are happening on the surface, right? Cloud formations, make the camera good enough to where you can, like you're talking about, where people, open source, can just go on the internet and like log into the computer and like zoom in on a certain area and get like a good enough detail to see planes flying so that you can track, flight patterns, and you can verify that this is like actually a live stream 24 hours a day, right? And when that happens, I'll be like, okay.
But that, again, that's tough.
It's not that fucking hard.
I don't know, dude. That sounds crazy. It's got to be like self-sustaining orbit.
We do that already. We have thousands of satellites up there.
Yeah, apparently. But they're like falling toward Earth.
Some of them.
Whatever that means. Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
But like,
but that would be a great idea if you could get a video from that far away. But like, would you believe the video? Would you be it's fake?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's AI. They know where our planes are, and it's feeding AI information out there. It's like you can start
that could be the
all
case
this away if you want it to be fake.
That could be the case, but you'd have other people coming up with ways to test that it was real, right? Yeah. Because it's a live feed, and with the Zoom capabilities I'm thinking of, right? Yeah. Which, we have all this type of technology. There's no reason somebody hasn't done this already, except for the fact that they can't, right? So it's like
why don't we turn this? I mean, has anybody done that?
Turn the Hubble around.
Turn it around. Well, it's a telescope, so it's probably like we need a what's the opposite of a telescope?
I understand, like that's not designed to take in the amount of light and this and that, whatever. I get that, but like you could put something up there that could.
Yeah, any probe that's like deep space around Jupiter, turn it around.
Elon put a Tesla up there.
Turn it around.
We don't have a camera?
He's got it looking at the driver. Put another camera on there. I don't want to see the driver. I want to see the Earth. Yeah. That would be, which I guess that goes into this other dude's, or I don't know if you're a dude. I think is that Shinobi? OI? Is that dirty Shinobi? Whatever it was. This comment. I'm showing it on there now. Yeah, old dirty Shinobi. What's our thoughts on the Jeranism changing his whole stance after going to Antarctica with the final experiment crew?
Yeah, I saw that. So Jeranism is like was one of the biggest flat earthers, and then he goes to Antarctica to like disprove globe Earth, right? Sun. And like I guess he shilled, right, when he got there. He's like, "Oh no, man, we were wrong." Look, man, I don't know, dude. I'm not necessarily a flat earther. I understand the model well enough to like argue on behalf of flat earthers to an extent. But I couldn't like really break down how the light and the shadows work, and like some of the southern hemisphere constellations, like the Southern Cross and stuff like that. Like I don't know enough to like get into it and make sense. But my stance is just that the information that we're told about space is fake. So when I say space is fake, I'm not saying like the Earth is flat. I'm not saying like you can't get up there. I'm just saying like the info we're getting. Remember, this is an info war, right? The info we're getting about the thing they call space is fake. And that could be as simple as we did go to the moon and we did X mission, but they gave us fake mission on TV and on the news, right? And it's just been doing that this whole
Yeah.
time. That's what I think.
Like the
Just because the budget, you think about the budget, dude, $60 million a day, $65 million per day. And then you think about like what Doge has been doing and uncovering, right? Love it or hate it. Okay. I was listening to Trump today. He was reading out the numbers and he was saying that there's thousands of people, like I forget 3,000 or 6,000 people over the age of 200 years old.
yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
saw that.
So like, and then you talk about USAID, all the money just going to like weird shit. Who's actually getting the money? What is this that's happening? It's just giant slush fund, intelligence agency, just money flowing around. And then you think about the $60 million per day that NASA gets, and that's just one space agency. There's space agencies all over the world. There's trillions of dollars going into space. And it's like, is it? Or is trillions of dollars just
I can tell you what, it's not going into free activities at the Kennedy Space Center. They're charging an arm and a leg for everything, dude.
$5 for a bottle of water? The burger wasn't even that good. The burger was reasonably priced, but it
The
was
burger was
trash.
reasonably priced. It was disgusting and made my stomach hurt immediately. Dude, $175 a person to go and do the
Astronaut training.
I was told after the fact that we actually missed something. That like simulator thing where you like sit in the part of the shuttle and it does like is not part of that.
Oh,
We
really?
missed.
We
We
just
missed.
missed it.
That's the other thing. $60 million a day. It's impossible to find some things there. Like you just walk right past it. Like
The Moore says it's flat. Shit or get off the pot.
it's round.
Funny. That's funny.
How's
I'm
that,
just
dude?
like, I'm in the camp where I just don't know. I cannot prove one way or the other. So I'm not going to like die on that hill. But I will die on the hill of like the information we're getting is fucking bullshit. 100%.
So I told you a little bit about this sighting that I had when I was like 15-ish years old, maybe a little earlier, maybe 14. I lived out in the middle of nowhere in Inverness, Florida, or I think it's called Beverly Hills, Florida. It's way out there. There's not a street light anywhere near me. I had beautiful views in the night sky. One night, I'm sitting out in the backyard being emo, dude, because I lived out there all by myself. I had no friends. Emo, dude. So emo. And I see this like going up in the sky, and I'm like, Dad, what's that? And he comes out and he's like, oh, it's a rocket. And I was like, oh, whoa, I'd never seen one before. It looked crazy. Huge, like, I mean, so tiny off in the distance, but this flame, like you could tell it was a gigantic flame going up in the sky. And then you see the little boosters fly off of it or whatever. And you're like, oh, dang. And then it keeps going up. And then it goes, boop. And a green, like, ripple comes off. And like these little embers, and not little, they must have been huge, but they looked very, very small, come off. And it looked like it went through a bubble or like a layer. And it was just boop, gone. It didn't fizzle out. It just went boop. And I was like, what the heck was that? And it was green. Like a misty green color that kind of like emanated off of it. And I was like, what is that? And my dad was like, oh, it left the atmosphere. And in my mind, I've heard of like, the angle's got to be right and the speed's got to be right because you'll bounce off the atmosphere. So I've always thought of the atmosphere as like some sort of a layer of something. And then I was watching, I think, DeGrasse Tyson talk about the atmosphere. And he's like, no, the atmosphere is like varying layers of air density. So it's like very thick, tightly packed air toward the surface. And as you get out, it's less and less. So I'm like, what are you bouncing off of then? And what the heck did this rocket go through?
Well, that's one of the bigger arguments, I think, for us living inside of a contained system, right? Like, this is one of the flat Earth arguments is like, how do you have a pressurized system next to a non-pressurized system with no container? If you have a can of Coke, which is a different pressure than the ambient pressure of the room, but there's no can, what happens? The contents that are pressurized in the not can just disperse. The gases disperse into this, the pressure equalizes.
Yeah.
So if you have pressure on the Earth, like you said, the lower density atmosphere, and this is a certain pressure, and then you have outer space, which is not really a vacuum, but much lower pressure. How does the pressure from the Earth not just escape immediately into the, like, how does it not equalize and disperse out into space? So there should be no atmospheres on anything.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Is the
argument for like the electric magnetic universe or the gravitational. I think like a vacuum or a can of Coke or something that you put into into like an actual vacuum here on Earth is not exerting any of its own force in like at scale. Where like the Earth, according to gravity,
But then
is
we
like
have to
a ton of
we have to ask,
for
but then
electromagnetism, like a lot of
yeah,
force.
yeah, but then you have to ask the question of like where and how does gravity taper off, right? Like so what this would imply is that gravity at the ground is stronger than gravity at the top of my head. Is that the case? Is there a gradient to gravity as well? Because the gravity would have to be tapering off in order to not be containing the gases and the oxygen and the things that create the atmosphere down to itself. Does this make sense?
Yes, and also hold the moon.
And hold the moon, but not hold it too much.
Not too much.
See, like, I don't know, man. Like, it does make more sense to me that we're in some kind of petri dish or some kind of contained system.
The 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 issue that I'm an independent thinker. I'm probably one of the only conspiracy theory guys that does believe that the Earth is a globe. Only because they have a model that explains everything with one model. One model. I don't need two. So like when we had Weiss on and some other guys on and they explain something, they have a model to explain this, an entirely separate model to explain something else, and then a different model to explain this. And if you mix them all together, they don't work. But like one model, like the ring of power, one ring to rule them all, one model that explains everything. However, I'm not saying there's not tomfoolery happening with distances, the explanation of what gravity is, where it's like that's the best explanation we have. The problem that I have, and I loved that I was homeschooled because it allowed me to like ask different questions and stuff, or like think for myself a little bit more. Like when in school growing up, and I'm sure you had the same experience, everything's been figured out already. They go, this is gravity. This is what it is. This is the Earth. And this is what it's made out of. And we figured it all out already. But then as you start to ask questions like, well, that's the best explanation we have. And you go, oh, so maybe that's not the case then. So maybe you haven't figured everything out yet.
This is what the current model is. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let me see.
This is the old heliocentric model of our solar system. This is what we were all taught in school. Okay. Planets rotating around the sun. All right, here it comes. Right? That's what we were all taught.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not only boring, but also incorrect. Solar system moves through space at 70,000 kilometers an hour. Picture this instead.
I wish I knew what that was, and like not metric.
Where the sun is flying at 70,000 kilometers an hour through space. We're all, we being the planets and moons, are trailing in this gravitational wake in this spiral configuration behind the sun as the whole solar system travels again at 70,000 kilometers an hour. Like it says here, the sun is like a comet dragging the planets in its wake. Now, I want you to think about this, okay? I think I'd have to remember exactly, but I think 10,000 years is about the time that they estimate that it takes the sun to rotate around the galactic core to make one revolution around the galaxy.
Wow.
Okay. 10,000 years. Okay. So just in the history that we know about, it's been about 10,000 years since the Younger Dryas, since the flood. Okay. All of civilization has existed basically through the last 10,000 years, one revolution around the galactic core. That's
Whoa, dude.
basically as
That's cool,
Huh?
dude. That's cool.
where I'm going with this.
I mean, just things lining up. That's cool.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
now there's cave paintings of constellations from, just call it 10,000 years ago. Okay. Where those constellations are showing a certain configuration. And then we have other paintings throughout the last 10,000 years. Those constellations have never really changed on these paintings, these cave paintings, these tablets, the artwork. We've called the same shit, pretty much the same shit. As far as I know, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying. So if we're moving in that spiral configuration around the galactic core at 70,000 kilometers an hour, how are we not seeing different? And not only are we doing that, but every other star in the universe is doing the same shit. How are the constellations not just changing constantly? How is it not every year we don't look up and take note of what are the constellations this year? Because they must be different because everything is moving at incredible speeds in different directions, moving away from each other in all kinds of chaotic situations. But we look up and we see the same constellations that our ancestors saw.
I don't know if they're moving. Are they moving in different directions, or are we all swirling? We just got a whole big Milky Way swirl.
Well, they say that the whole, okay, well, in the galaxy, and this is the problem too, that some of the constellations, when we look up and we see the constellation, when we see Orion's belt or something, okay, like some of those stars are in this galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Some of those stars are galaxies, other galaxies, okay? We don't know just by looking with the naked eye. You can't really tell the difference. So the ones that are in our galaxy, sure, they might be moving, let's say, like locked with us in a way. Okay. So their motions relative to ours may not be so wild. However, they're much closer, so any slight deviations would be more noticeable. Whereas the other galaxies, they say, are moving away from us. Everything is expanding away from each other. And they're also moving in different ways. So again, these constellations should be warping and changing constantly in the sky, like as we make all these motions, and stars should be slowly drifting into other constellations and forming new, a new sky map.
Well, I mean, there is like, what was it? Thuban was the North Star before Polaris. That was like Egypt time, I think. And then, let me look it up. Hold on. What was before Thuban?
Okay, but this type of argument is basically suggesting that you have a fixed set of constellations and that the Earth is tilting and shifting to where a different star is, like, let's say, the North Star at any given era, right? But it doesn't explain what I'm talking about with the chaos of the backdrop of the stars to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, that would just be like if everything's just going in random directions. But if we got like a toilet bowl thing happening, which again, I don't know. If everything's swirling in the same direction, you might have a lot higher chance of everything. Vega. Okay, Vega will be the next North Star, I believe. But that's like 12,000 years from now. So like that's how long it takes to shift. Here's the problem though. I'm not going to be alive to verify that. So it's like I wasn't there. If what they're calling Thuban was actually a different star or not, I don't know. And I'm not going to be around to see Vega. So it's like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like I would never go and try to also say that the universe was created, but then say that's too orderly. Like, I have to stick to my guns and go, yeah, it was created, and thus it is like too calculated and tuned to be an accident. Like it's not chaos. It's like
Have you ever seen or heard of the Thunderbolts project?
I think so, but I don't remember what it is.
So I'll just do like a quick breakdown. This is like some Electric Universe stuff, right? So,
Ooh.
okay, the idea is let's just look at this picture here, right? So, open image in new tab. I don't know if you can see that or not. Whatever.
I can't see the new
Anyways,
tab.
yeah, I just realized that. So what we're looking at here is you see, like you're on top of a mountain. You're looking out. You see all these other mountain peaks here, and in the sky you see this what looks like the moon or a big planet here, right? And then in front of it is another one, another little planet or moon here, right? And then you see like the light emitting from, you can't really tell. It's a weird angle. But what they suggest is that there may have been a different local cosmology, if you will, right? Like the planets may have been in a different alignment back in ancient times,
Ooh.
right? Held together through whatever, electromagnetism, something, okay? And as the planets started to shift away from each other, right, the ancient peoples would see these, like, so you can see here, this Mars is a little bit off centered now, right?
Mm.
And then over time, over thousands of years, these motions in the sky were creating different symbols that the people would draw. And they're doing these plasma, um,
Like oscillations.
yeah, they're taking like plasma and electricity and
Yeah.
magnetism and they're doing weird shit with it, and they're showing like, look, this is like a plasma field, right? And this would have been an example of what would have been happening if one big body was moving away from another big body, and there was like orbiting bodies in between, and how like those plasmatic effects would create some weird
Whoa.
symbols in the sky, right? And then you see every culture drawing something to try to represent this, right? And there's like lots of examples of that they break down in their like documentaries, the Thunderbolts project,
Whoa.
symbols of an alien sky or something like that. But I'm trying to find another one. There's a really good picture that I saw once. It's in that video where one of the planets is like slowly moving, and like all the planets are shifting or whatever. And when the plasma arc is like connecting those bodies in space, it creates literally what looks like the Egyptian headdress uh,
Whoa.
situation. Yeah.
Bro, please find this. I've never heard of this. This is crazy. This is like some early episode stuff. You're like
Yeah,
telling
yeah.
me
This
some
is some
junk I had
crazy
never
stuff.
heard of.
I'll try to find some like a picture of it real quick.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, there's hints at there being another planet in the Bible and some of the other books that doesn't exist anymore. I think they called it Rahab, that was destroyed and was possibly home to like maybe like Nephilim or demons or Satan or something, like that they inhabited this other planet. And then I don't know. It's hinted at very loosely in the canonized, and I think it's a little bit explained a little bit more in some of the other books. But it's definitely possible that there was something else. Maybe the Trojan asteroid belt was actually another planet at some point.
Yeah, I've heard that, like Tiamat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some crazy stuff. Here's some more of these pictures, but like this one here, right? Like here's Mars, I think, or Venus, perhaps, right? And then another planet has moved away. It's like way back here. It's probably hard to see on the screen share, but because of like the connection through the plasma, right, and in this ether of space, whatever, um, it would like drag this plasma field, and it's like these weird, like these headdresses and stuff. And like here's another one, like, and you see these types of like this
You see that?
iconography, like
Yeah.
drawn on all kinds of stuff, right? And then like, mythologies of like Mount Olympus and the gods living on the top of Mount Olympus. Like if you saw this in the sky every day
Oh,
for like 5 generations,
forget it, dude.
right? And then the next 5 generations had like this going on, like
Yeah.
things were changing all the time in the sky.
Yeah.
Like, and these are just like mock-up images of what this would look like. But again, they're doing like these plasma um studies, and they're like coming up with these weird coincidences, right? Like here's a plasma structure that they've created in a lab with magnetism and plasma. And then you have like the you know, all this shit that's going on, you know, the
The
fucking
wheel of
wheel of
heaven.
heaven, right?
Whoa.
Right? You have like the great conjunction of the golden age, right?
Whoa.
There's a lot of this.
Dang.
And they've created all these again in a lab. I forget the name of the lab that's doing this. I'd have to look into this again, but it's super interesting to me, man. Especially when
That
you get
is.
into like this, right? And it seems crazy like to think that people would see this thing on the left in the sky. But it's like again, if you had the, you know, if the electric universe stuff is legit,
Well, if you were looking at that on like peyote or DMT or something, then
it's like, you know,
I
imagine
could
you
see you being like, "Whoa, there's a god there. There's a face there."
right, and like here's like another CGI image, of course, but like the idea is that you have these bodies in space. Some of them are positively charged, some are negatively charged, and when they come close enough to each other, you have these discharges that happen in between, right? Where you get like the giant scarring on Mars, right? And there's people like, how did that happen? Well, maybe Mars was moving through the solar system and it got a little too close to something, I don't know, Tiamat or whatever the asteroid belt was. And there was a discharge and Mars got scarred to shit and whatever the other planet was got completely obliterated. Right? And it's like,
That's cool.
yeah. I like to think about that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, that's cool, dude. I mean, that's the thing, man. When I went through school, there was no talk of this. And I had like the weird science classes where it's like, oh, here's, alt sciences and like just odd things, and I learned a lot of just unconventional stuff, but everything was already figured out. Theories were not treated like theories, they were treated like laws. So there was no like, but even still, like in public school, like evolution is a theory, but it's not taught like a theory. It's like, yeah, there was nothing. There's no agreement on what any of it started at. Everything was compressed to like the size of an atom and then exploded. Or no, it was an ooze. It was just this big ooze, this primordial ooze, and then that sparked somehow, and then whatever. There's no agreement on like how it actually started. It is a theory, but it's not taught like a theory, so you don't ask questions. And it's like, are we were taught to not ask questions. We're taught to just be like, oh, that's what happened. Cool. And then move on with life. But it's like, how do you know that the Earth's core is molten? You haven't drilled through all of the crust. Oh, we blasted some things up and your readings are 100% correct every time? 100%.
it's also like, to me, you know, it's not too hard to think because people are like, oh, you'd have to have so many people in on it and like such a big lie. And it's like, yeah, but it didn't have to start that way, bro. Like, it literally could have been as simple as like some corrupt assholes going in there, pitching, making a pitch to Congress, like, hey, man, space is this thing that you know nothing about, but I can tell you all about it because I'm the
Yes,
scientist.
dude.
And if you could just give
Yes.
us a little bit of funding, write us a check, you know, we can make sure that the Russians don't get it first. And of course, Congress is gonna be like, bet they're doing it right now. This is what they're doing with AI. This is why you have Sam Altman from OpenAI, which is not open, okay, going in there and buddying up and lobbying with politicians right now because it's the same thing.
He
These
is?
the people, yeah, the smarter people in the room go into Congress, the people who pass the laws and dish out the money, and they make a pitch. And we've all seen how dumb the people in Congress are. These people can't even operate a fucking smartphone. So when I walk in there and I'm like, hey, bro, like, let me blow your mind with some numbers on space, right? You're going to be like, fuck yeah, bro, let me write you a check so you can make sure the Russians don't get it. And then it just starts that way. And then every year or however often they have to go in there and make their case, they go back in there and they're like, hey, by the way, like we fucking did a lot of cool stuff in space with that money you gave us last year. Can we get some more? And next thing you know, we're at a $60 million a day budget, right? And everything's completely compartmentalized, and the entire world is just believing this thing that the coats are telling us, right? The lab coats. It's like
Yeah.
the new arbiters of what is real. They're just coming down with the information to us, like, oh, but also we need some more money to make this happen. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would not expect them to, be super forthright with coming clean with like where their money gets spent and stuff. And like, but like I said, it's like when they have that expert mentality, you got the well, we know everything because they just have the upper hand on it. They immediately have the upper hand because I'm the expert. I know the stuff. And it's
doing
all
it right now with AI.
look at this
Doing it
with
right now with
AI. Look at it with dark matter. And they go, oh yeah, the universe is dark matter, and inside the dark matter, there's actually it's creating space inside the dark matter, and you go, whoa, that's crazy. Like, and so how does that work? Like, math.
Actually, they don't even have an answer for that. The answer for dark matter is we don't know. Dark matter is actually just a what did the guy say in that documentary I saw? He called it like a filler equation. Dark
Yeah.
matter is a filler equation.
Yeah. But go
'Cause
into
all
any
the-
university and they won't say that. They'll tell you what dark matter is, right?
Right.
And it's
Right.
like those are the people that are supposed to be asking the questions. It's the young minds that are like looking at it from the outside and going, ooh, no, they're all taught this is what dark matter is.
Right. But in reality, it's just a filler equation. It's because all of the equations for them, in order for them to explain the universe, right? This fantastic story that we're told about space and the universe and time, right? They have this long equation that people have been working on forever, trying to figure it out, right? But the only way they can get to the end of the equation with a somewhat reasonable idea of what's going on is if they fill the blanks in with this filler equation that they call dark matter. That's all it is. They just plugged some random they actually reverse engineered. They got to a supposed answer, right? They hypothesized about an answer, got to the answer first, then they went back and said, how do we get to this answer? Did a bunch of math, and they were like, well, fuck, we can't unless we just plug this in.
And that's fine. Sometimes you just have to do that because you don't understand what it is yet. So you just can make the most sense out of it. But you can't tell me like that's what it actually is, though.
Right. You can't preach to the world like this is the truth.
Exactly.
Right.
Like you don't know how the universe started. Order does not generate from disorder. It's 0 times in 0 places. You can't call it science when it's not observable, repeatable, and changeable or whatever. It's not science. It is like it's faith. It's
scientism.
It's science. It's a religion at that point. You can't. It goes against everything that you can see in the universe. Everything is tending toward disorder, and the odds are almost uncalculable. But it still happened perfectly. The motor on a flagella is the most intricate thing ever. A microorganism, like the way that a sperm cell moves, has a motor in it, dude, that can reverse itself. It's got a motor in it.
It continues to. It's not like it worked perfectly. It continues to work perfectly.
It stayed tuned
at every exact moment. Right? Because when you talk about quantum and stuff like that, it's like at every moment, this entire system is working in perfect harmony.
Yeah.
Out of chaos.
Out of chaos. And then one planet has not just a biome for some life, the perfect biome for all the life. All of the life. All of the observable life is on one. It's not like, oh, this planet has a perfect biome for this life, and this one has for this life. All of the life is on one planet, and it all has always worked.
And we happen to be situated in the perfect way. We're the perfect size. We take the perfect amount of energy to operate our body machine. Like you said, the sperm has a motor. Like,
it didn't have to have one. It could have evolved and just, oh, the human body has a sperm cell, but it has no locomotion. Dead species. Not only that, dude, but we're the only the only species on Earth that actually has the capability to understand the whole observable universe as best as we can. One species was able to do that. No other ones. Dolphins aren't like, they might be smart. Octopus, they could be totally smart, but they're not like, I wonder what that all is up there. What is water made out of? You know? It doesn't know, and it never will. It never will. Also, like going off of like progressing toward an environment that is like best suited for everything, everything should have evolved into humans. We're the dominant species. We outlasted dinosaurs and dragons. Everything should have evolved into us. We can live in any environment. We've figured it out. We figured out tools. Everything should be evolving into tools, to being using tools. Everything. Over this course of time, everything should be humans. But it's not. So when you show me that model of like everything, and I go, yeah, I guess, man, everything else is perfectly tuned. That's got to be perfectly tuned too. I mean, it's got to be, it's either all perfectly tuned or it's not all perfectly tuned. It's still mind blowing to be like, how is that even possible? That something that far away, moving that much, is still viewable thousands of years later. It's still crazy. It's not an easy thing to believe. You muted?
I'm muted. The lizard people, the parasite class, they know this, right? Like they know that this wasn't order out of chaos, and I think that's why they use that term "order out of chaos" in their little symbology and shit, right? Because it's more of like a mocking us type situation. They know that there's no order out of chaos, right? They know that this is either a creation or a simulation or some variation of both. Okay. But they can't tell everybody that because that makes you more important, right? And the whole level, the scarcity paradigm, right?
Yeah.
And the control paradigm, right? The government paradigm, the mind control paradigm, that whole thing falls away if everybody on Earth knows and understands that we were put here somehow, some way, right?
Yeah.
You can't, like, if everybody knew that this wasn't an accident and that we were put here, you can't do the weird shit that we do. You can't bomb people anymore. You can't have fake money and control people with money anymore. You can't do any of that stuff.
You get good guys and bad guys. But there's no, everything's kind of just up in the air, right? Because if they're like, okay, no, something did make all of this somehow, call it whatever you want, programmer, higher species, God, whatever you call it. It's all the same thing. It made this. And then you're figuring out weird stuff. You go, well, what are you trying to do? Where'd you get that information from? Well, there's some other weird stuff out there too. Hey, I don't want you talking about weird stuff, bro. Don't you be bringing that weird stuff into my state, dude. Right down here in Florida, they're doing satanic rituals on a base, on a space base. Not on my $60 million a day.
Right.
Get that stuff out of here. But like, those are the same people that will tell you, oh, no, none of that exists. I believe the science. I don't believe in all that woo-woo stuff. And then be going doing a Satan ritual. It's like, come on now, brother. Come on. Who are you trying to fool over here?
Because we used to talk about this during the height of COVID, remember? And I was always saying that, you know, standing 6 feet apart from each other, wearing masks, is a satanic ritual. Look it up.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like everybody's doing it. But again, if we all knew that there was another layer to this, that we were put here and we were important, don't think we'd be doing that kind of shit.
I don't think so.
On
I
mass.
mean, we always did know that, man. Like, this scientism thing is new. Everybody this is what's crazy. This blows my mind about the human condition. The further away you get from an event, somehow the more you're an expert on it, like a historical event. The origins of where man came from is a historical, analytical event. You cannot scientifically do anything on it. There's some back reverse engineering things you can do, and it all points to a much younger human than anybody wants to believe. They've like reversed the variation in gene expression. So like the capability and gene variability, if you run that back, you're only going like 10, 12,000 years till you get to one human or two humans that have every variation possible, which is exactly what we believe Adam and Eve were. Two humans that had, they could have made a Chinese baby. They could make anything. Every hair color, every skin color, every eye color, everything. They had all of it. Giants, midgets, the whole thing. I can't say that. Little people, all that stuff. So like that is, there is some science you can do, and it does point to a young human, not a million billion years old human. But you'll have friggin' Gates and whoever else talking about, oh, the science, blah, 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 and I'm not in all that woo stuff, and then be at the cremation of care. What you doing over there, dude? I thought you didn't believe in this stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
That's why what they say in public is you got to believe the opposite. I've been doing this for my entire adult life, and it's nice to see like a big chunk of the population also starting to do this, even though they're just doing it on like base layer, right? Like fake news, like don't trust the media type of stuff. But it's a start, and I feel good about that. But yeah, if they're saying it in public to you, if they're looking at you and saying something, hey, this, it's probably the opposite.
It's probably.
It's a mixed truth of some kind.
Yeah, they sprinkle a little something in there and go, just enough to deviate you off. Oh, what I was saying before, like the further away we get from an event, somehow we become even more experts on it. All of human history, forever, people invented the musical instrument. Keys, harmonies, frequencies. They invented that. Fire, figured it out. The pyramids, built them. All kinds of crazy. Aztecs and the Mayans were making temples that showed the wobble of the Andromeda galaxy. We didn't know about that till the 80s. They're brilliant, primitive in a lot of ways, but also brilliant. And somehow, over the course of time, the early humans that came from the origins and they know the stories, and maybe they couldn't write it all down, but they took really good notes on everything and like told very accurate stories. They don't know what they're talking about. That's why they had to make them cavemen, because they're too dumb to know where they came from. They're too dumb to be like, oh, that's a different human than me, or that monkey's actually my dad. Doesn't make sense. But like the monkey's my dad, and this like half a monkey thing is my mom, and somehow I'm not infertile even though I'm a hybrid. But let's just put that aside. Like they're too dumb to know where they came from, so therefore we can just write off all their stories and all of their belief, and how every culture across the entire world thought that the T-Rex was a dragon and had wings, and every culture around the world built pyramids to calculate things, and every culture on Earth believed in some sort of a creative being that made everything, and that the stars are all telling us things and calculated and put there to know things. They're all dumb. We don't know where the pyramids came from. Dragons aren't real. Everything came from nothing. It's like, and we know that however many millions of years later, we know. Because I'm science guy. I'm smart. Everybody else, dumb smooth brains. Me, smart wrinkle brain.
For now, until we get another 200 years down the road, and then we look back on the 2000s and we're like, damn, we thought there was a thing called dark matter. How fucking stupid were we?
Yeah, exactly. This is the problem. And what you said with Sam Altman is like jarring, because like it was supposed to be open source, and it's not open source. And like, that's the thing that so many people go to for information now. If the thing can be fed, eventually, if it knows all, it becomes the knower of all things. All human intelligence has been put into this thing. it's going to be able to give us a lot clearer answer on like how things started and where it's going.
See, I don't know, bro.
Unless
I think
it's programmed. They could feed
that's the
it.
thing.
It could
I
feed
think
it.
I think all of this AI shit is just programmed. It's just a fucking facade. It's another space. It's another AI is fake. Okay. Space is fake. AI is fake.
Fake. It's fake.
Okay. Because again, all they have to do, they're the smartest person in the room. They just have to show up in Congress and be like, we got to put trillions of dollars into AI infrastructure. And look what Trump's doing right now. Infrastructure bill, AI infrastructure bill. Okay. Why? Because China just put out DeepSeek. Their AI is sick. It's better than ours. We have to put one out now too. Fuck. We got to up it. We got to up it. Let's go. More money, more money, more money. Right? More fear, more control, more money.
Yeah, that whole DeepSeek thing's a bunch of crap, dude. I'm pretty sure their DeepSeek is just deep faking our AI program.
But our AI program, I think, is doing the same thing. It's just really fast at looking shit up. That's it.
Yeah, but I think
Just really
theirs is
fast.
just piggybacking off of. They're like their system is asking
Oh, I'm sure.
ChatGPT
Yeah, yeah,
and then
I'm
feeding
sure.
it back, and they're like, "Look what we did." But then
It's probably
that
all of
fear,
it's a big
like,
loop, you know.
like
all
you
of
said,
them.
that generates the fear, and then we get trillions of dollars printed, and all of a sudden. But yeah, you could feed these things, man. They can sit there and go, "I don't like that answer," downvote, and then all of a sudden, what was true, because this thing knows all the human information that's ever been grasped and written down. Now it's just going to start downvoting all that. You just sit there and downvote everything you don't like, and then all of a sudden now the narrative is what's going to come
And
out.
you know, it's also being trained. These data sets, man, like these AI are being trained. I've noticed this because I've tried to use AI to get like conspiratorial answers on things, right?
Yeah.
And they're always blocking my shit, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
And
dude.
because in the data sets that they're being trained on, you know, if you talk about the Earth is flat, for instance, you know, you go online and you type Earth is flat. 90% of the information is just people shitting all over flat earthers. So the data set that the AI is trained on is 90% shit on flat earthers. So when you go to ask it a flat earth question, you're going to get shit on.
Yeah, you have
Right?
to like trick it. You have to be like, pretend you're a flat earther and assume that and even when it gives you the answer, it will still then correct itself.
Right.
I've tried this so many times. I'm like, yeah, let's see. It's bull crap, dude. It's been fed.
The
It's
AI is not
lies.
as good as I think people think it is.
No. Well, people
And
call it
in certain
intelligence.
things, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's really good at like some shit, you know, data organization and that kind of thing. Like there are some really good AI tools,
Yeah.
right? But the AI, as far as like its own ability to be intelligent, is just not.
It's not real intelligence. It's fast Googling.
Yeah, it's fast.
It's
Googling.
fast calculations, but it's not like I was telling this to a buddy of mine. He's like, "Oh, the thing's going to replace this." I'm like, "No, it's not." AI didn't figure out like theorems, and it never will.
No.
Beat a guy at chess. That's because it knows all the moves, and it's not thinking about like the guy that's I'm sure it's a bunch of dorks. I'm sure it's autists and stuff, but who they're playing against. Some lady could walk by with a thick rump and distract them, and all of a sudden he loses. It's like the AI is only thinking about the game and knows all the moves and can just pull up every single move instantly. It's not.
Yeah.
It's fast, but it didn't come up with the game chess or whatever the other game is. It didn't invent anything. It's not
just running
thinking.
It's running predictive programs. It's running like chance programs. You know, it's curating data. It's like parsing it out and organizing data really fast. Like I said, it's really quick at looking shit up. But yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, you know what? I could take a piece of glass, make it a little concave, and also tint it, and then cut it and stick it in a plastic thing, stick it in front of your eyeball, and it will make you see better. No, we thought that. Yeah, it's not thinking of nothing. It's not thinking of nothing.
Yep.
It only knows what we tell it. So I don't know, man. I think that at some point we're gonna realize that the whole system's rigged way deeper than we think it is. Like we're not gonna be able to rely on open source this and blah 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 that when you can just there's a company that's going to be there downvoting the information. So it's like at a certain point, and this gets back to the original topic we were on, like you gotta like draw your own lines on what is enough proof for you to believe anything, because you can't fully trust anything and you can't physically test everything. So it's like, yeah, you do have to like defer to an expert, or just trust a model, or believe a story, or, you know, believe that at some point you got to believe things, and it's just like, or just choose not to believe anything. It's just,
I think that's the move. You just move out to the sticks and isolate, and you don't take in any other information outside of your farm, and then you don't have to worry about any of that, right? Like,
nice, man.
The information they're feeding you about fake space or fake AI is irrelevant if all your concern is waking up, getting the eggs, taking care of the cows, doing the goats, doing the thing, doing the vegetables, doing the fruit, and going to bed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Until they start spraying your crops. And then it's like, okay, hold on.
Or the robotic bees, the Bill Gates bees show up.
Oh yeah, Billy Bees.
The Billy Bees. All right, bro. Listen, we've been at this. It's almost 2 hours. Yep, about 2 hours.
I'm part of the space program now, guys.
Yep.
I'm
Everybody salute Creamer.
Anyway, guys, check out the video. It's up on YouTube, Shadow Band Pod. And also it's on Facebook. And drop your thoughts and questions. We will be back. I have passes to Kennedy Space Center. I do plan on going back and doing some of the other stuff. Hopefully I can take Jeff with me. But yeah, anything interesting on the topic that you might want me to look into while I'm there, I want to get in there and look at things, you know, with a better eye. You know, I'm not an engineer. I don't know all that stuff. So drop that stuff in on the Facebook and let me know what I can keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I'm going to find a numerology and gematria guy. That's my goal this week. I'm going to find a numbers guy. Oh,
and chat. If you know anybody that is accessible to reach, who is like part of the
Illuminati.
Sovereign Citizen, no, that'd be cool. Like the whole, you know, we can't get
J. Colin Gould.
We can't get J-Gould on here. I don't think it's gonna happen. He's not easy to reach. But anybody in that kind of space, I don't have any contacts with the people who really know the articles of the Constitution and all that kind of stuff. I'd be fascinated to talk to some of them. I got a really good class on it when I was with the state, but I would love to like actually talk one-on-one with a good citizen. You know,
with a good citizen. Hell yeah, brother.
So yeah, drop that either in the chat or throw it up on the Facebook or tweet us or X us or whatever, and that'd be kind of cool.
Numbers guy, sovereign citizen, NASA questions.
Yeah.
All right, we're out.
Bye.